Hello, and welcome to Open Education Analytics. My name is Chad, and today I'm going to give you a tour on how to connect Power BI to your OpenEDU Analytics Synapse workspace. So let's go ahead and get started. For the content of this short video, I'm going to touch on three main pieces. The first is viewing the data in your Synapse workspace, so just how to have a peek at what's there in terms of tables and databases. The second is connecting it to Power BI, and I'll show two options. The first is building a new dashboard from scratch using only the existing tables. And the second is starting by connecting a template that was shared with you, available through our resources, as a very fast way to get started. After those two, I'll show how to publish your dashboard so that you can share it with others. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what we can do. I'm going to start off in the Azure portal, right? So you can access this pretty easily by just going here, portal.azure.com, type in your credentials, and verify that you're living in the workspace you want. In my case, it's called Test Contoso, which is a artificial just test school system that we created for training purposes. And in my recent resources, I can see a Synapse workspace, the one that I want, but I can also find this by clicking all resources and sorting through the list of options that I have available. So I'll go here. And in the portal, I'll see a pile of information, right? So a lot of things about the Synapse workspace, what resource group it's in, many different things. I'm going to come back to this shortly, but for now, I'm just going to go straight to the Synapse Studio, right? So if I click Open, we'll see this window here, up here. And the first thing you should see is this default landing page, right, with all the usual Synapse workspace things. But off in the left-hand side menu, I'm going to select the data option just to see what databases I have available, right? So in the workspace, I can see that there's 10 total databases in my case. Yours might have different names, but you should have some available. And I'm going to drill into perhaps the M365 Stage 2 data. And I'm going to view one of these tables, so maybe the person table. If I click this drop-down menu, I can create a new SQL script that allows me to see the top 100 rows, right? So if I hit run, that'll execute. I'm going to close this property tab. And below, I can see the first few lines of my data, right? So in this case, I have students, they have names, they have student IDs, all the other sort of standard things that we would see in the person table. So viewing the data is very easy, but maybe I want to instead aggregate the data and count the total number of students I have, and then maybe compare each of those students' digital activity somehow, right? So that's a good task for Power BI. So I'm going to show you quickly how to create a brand new Power BI dashboard that connects to the person table, but also any other tables you're interested in. Okay. So I'm going to load up an empty Power BI desktop. So this is just my local desktop app, and I want to connect this to my Synapse workspace. So to do that, I'm going to select Import Data from a SQL Server. And if you don't see this on your homepage, you can also find it in the regular Get Data prompt, right? So you can go through here and find SQL Server and other options as well. So I'll click this one. And I'll be asked for some credentials for the server that I'm trying to access, right? So this server, I need a port number, right? Back into Azure, if we go back to the Azure portal, so this is my Synapse workspace details. Down here on the bottom, there's a serverless SQL endpoint, right? So this is the one that I'm going to connect to, and I'm just going to copy to clipboard the endpoint address. And that's what I'll use here as a server option. And instead of import, I'm going to select direct query. If I know the database I want, I can type this in, but if I perhaps want to select from multiple databases, or I don't know quite what I'm looking for, I can just click OK, and Power BI will just list all of the options available, right, in that SQL endpoint location. So here I see that it's loading, and I have a list now of database options, and these options are identical to what we just saw in Synapse, right? So if we remind ourselves of this list, there's a DS2 attendance, test S2 clever. I see exactly those same ones here. Okay. So for now, let's go back to S2, so stage 2 M365 data. So I'll expand that. And I'm going to select that persons table, and I want to bring that into my dashboard. It'll give me a preview of that table here, right? So I can see the first student name. And again, these are artificial students, right? So it looks like Glenda Costa is the first. And that was actually the first one we saw back here in Synapse as well. So I'll select that table. I'm also going to select the activity table. And the activity table contains, in my case, the M365 digital activity, right? So you can see here login emails, login dates, certain apps that were accessed, and how many times, as well as a duration and other data as well. So I'll click load, and that'll bring those two tables into Power BI. And once those connections are made, I can join up those tables and build any visuals that I want, right? So that's what we'll be chasing down momentarily. All right, perfect. So I can see now these two tables are available. And again, the person table, I can see all the fields that we just saw, right? So there's names, person IDs. If I go over here on the left-hand side, there's a model tab, right? So in this model tab, I can also see the tables and any fields or properties about them. I can also connect these two tables, right? So if there's a reason to connect them so that I want to maybe count per person how many logins each one has, I can do that quite easily just by connecting the ID in the person table to the person ID in the activity table, right? So if I sort of drag that over, Power BI will automatically create that relationship. It'll also give me a cardinality for it as well. Okay, so if I hit OK, the thing I'll see is that there's a one-to-many relationship that is created. So for one person, there can be many digital activities, which makes sense. And I can use that relationship to build a more complex model if I want. Back to the visualization table. So I can create any visuals I want. So in this case, maybe I'll create a regular column chart. And for the fields, I will maybe include the application as the axis. So here I should see the O365 applications. Let's maybe make you a bit bigger. And the actual values that I'll plot, let's actually do maybe the duration for each. Cool. And you can do whatever you want like here. So build any sort of visuals you want, very easy drag and drop, and it's connected to the person table. So that's sort of stage one. I can build this and I can start basically from scratch. Stage two is for this data here, I mean, there's a lot of different options, and getting started can be a bit of a time sink, right? So building a lot of these visuals on your own. A second option is you can start from an Open Education Analytics template. So here I downloaded what's called an attendance dashboard, which is a template I have available at the time. And when I load that up, the thing I see is a fully created dashboard that uses a series of tables from my database, right? The trouble is if I hit refresh, the standard SQL Server endpoint that's included in this template might not match my own, right? And actually won't because it was built on the standard test data, right, rather than my live data. So say I want to switch this over, and instead of querying the test data, I want to query my data, right, in my Synapse workspace. So that turns out to be pretty easy to do as well. So here I can go to transform data. There's a little drop-down tab, and I can select data source settings. And the thing I see if I look at the first source, so I'll click change source, I can see that there's a SQL Server endpoint that is not my own, right? So I'll go back again to the Synapse, the Azure portal, and in my Synapse workspace credentials, I can copy that same SQL serverless endpoint to the clipboard. I can paste that in here. So let's get rid of you and paste. And I should also verify that this database is in my Synapse workspace. So I'm going to give that database a look. Okay, so back to the Synapse workspace. The one that I have is called DS2 attendance. So that's what the template gave me. So I can see that I have that one available here. And if I expand it, there's a list of tables in here as well. So it looks like there's student section data, which includes maybe a student name, a student ID, and a section name. And there's also O365 activity data as well, right? So a bunch of activity data that looks like maybe it's aggregated by school, and I can peek at that if I feel like it. Okay. So I'll hit OK, and then I should edit the permissions here as well to include my login credentials, right? So I should change these. For now, they're set up to be what they should be, but if they're not, I can change them there. Likewise, I'm going to change this one as well in the same way. So I can change the serverless SQL endpoint to be my Synapse workspace. And that database I should make sure lives in my Synapse workspace as well. So the one it's looking at is the test S2M365, which is this one, right? So that should be available. So again, I'll hit OK, and I should update my credentials so that they are my own credentials. And if I hit close, now I should refresh the data, and this should be pulling in my own data for my Synapse workspace. So it queries those tables, and as long as all of the fields match the template, I should just see these visuals update to include that information. And it takes a moment, depending on your data size, to update, but here I can see it actually was pointing originally to my Synapse workspace, so none of these visuals changed, but yours should reflect your true data. If I go to the data model, I can see that there's already one built for me, right? So here, it looks like they're using 3 tables. The person table is the middle, and the 2 outside tables are student sections and the O365 activity data, right? So just a small, easy little model going on here. Cool. That's pretty much it. If I get this template up and I like it and I want to share it, that's also pretty easy to do, right? I can just click publish here and it asks me if I want to save, so that seems like a good idea. And with the account that I have logged into Power BI, I can see any available workspaces that I have. So I'm going to publish to what I have here, which is called EDU Analytics. I'm going to hit select, and it'll go ahead and push this out to that. And I'm going to cancel because I already did that, so it's there. But when I go now to Power BI, so this is just app.powerbi.com, I logged in with my same credentials, and I can see that the attendance dashboard that I was just on is now live in this space. So if I click that, I should see in the Power BI cloud that exact same dashboard. And I could even edit it here in more limited ways. I can share it out via a link. I can make it public and publish it to a website, so whatever you choose. So this is one way to share out and publish Power BI dashboards. A second way, though, which is kind of nice, is that you can do this just within Synapse, right? So the Synapse workspace actually supports Power BI, right? And you can see that right here, but also a number of other things as well, okay? So when I go back to this menu, I'm going to look at first the Manage tab, and I'm going to double check that my Power BI workspace is connected to my Synapse workspace. So in my Manage tab, I can see that there's a number of things that I have under linked services. So I click Link Services. There's my Synapse Analytics, there's a storage space, but there's also a Power BI space as well. So here, if I click this one, and if you don't see one, you can build one your own. So I can check that everything here is in line. If you don't see yours, you can click New. And from this, you can search for Power BI and go ahead and connect it to your workspace that way. This one I just added a moment ago, so I have it available. If I go back to my menu options, I'm going to go to the Develop tab. I can see from this tab that Power BI is here, right? So I can save SQL scripts, notebooks, but Power BI as well. And if I expand this, I see the workspace I created. And if I expand the reports, I actually see those same reports, right? So here I'm going to click the attendance dashboard, And let's maybe get these collapsed. And in this sort of window right here, let's maybe keep you open, I should load that exact same dashboard that we saw previously. And you can even edit this within Synapse. You can make a copy. You can download a fresh copy. So anybody who wants to work on this on their own space, you can go ahead and go about that here. Beautiful. All right. So that concludes our short tour. Let's go back to our slides. A recap of everything we just went through. So I showed how to connect to data in your Synapse workspace, and this is going to be either for SQL or Spark databases. I gave you two ways to connect to Power BI, right? One is a new dashboard from available tables. The second is a template, which is really fast and easy. And the third is I showed you how to publish a Power BI dashboard to both your Power BI and Synapse workspaces. All right, that's everything for today.